Our next presentation is from our special guest tonight from NASA Technology at Kennedy Space Center, Mr. Delvin Van Norman. He got his bachelor's degree in computer science from Mississippi State University. His master's degree in engineering management from UCF, close to us. He started his career at NASA as computer engineer in the launch control systems, and today he is the Technology Transfer Program Partnership Manager. Please welcome Delvin.
So Dr. Ramy gave me a lot of the information that you see here, but like I said, I was on software development before I did this job for the exploration ground system, which is building the command and control system for the Artemis program that's getting ready to launch. Right now they're doing dress rehearsal and they're rolling back to the pad pretty soon, prepare for launch. Is it today or tomorrow? Yeah. So one of the cool jobs other than that I did, as you see with these, I was a part of this team called Ideas, where we worked on augmented reality glasses to kind of help technicians at KSC to be able to do their job hands-free. So imagine someone, tailored to working on something, tailored to a ladder, that can be able to see the instructions in front of their eyes or talk to somebody at a home base to give them instructions, and they can be able to do that. So that was one cool project that I worked on. So the T2U overview, and what is it basically? So the Technology Transfer University program brings real-world NASA-proven technologies to the classroom. And so it gives students like yourself the opportunity to take a NASA technology and come up with business models like some of the ones we heard today for alternate uses for that. Because you can imagine us being a space company, all our technologies are for space applications. So this is a way to commercialize that and come up with the ideas that you heard today. So how do you get started? So eventually in the classroom, he presented to you, and you have the opportunity to browse our patent portfolio or our software catalog, find a technology that suits your needs or whatever problem that you're trying to solve. And then you'll be able to come up with business ideas for that. And so we have two websites, like I mentioned. We have the patent portfolio, where we have over 1,000 patents, not just from KSC, but from all NASA centers. And so the website for that is technology.nasa.gov. This is the main site, but you can also drill down to just patents. They go to the patent portfolio directly. And we also have, this is an example of the top sheet, the technology opportunity sheet that we have. Once you get there, and it gives you like description of the technology, some potential benefits or applications for the technology. But like we always tell the students when we present this during the class, that those applications are just the applications that we have thought of, but there's not the main applications. Y'all might have ideas that we may not have even thought of. And in a lot of cases we do. For example, we met with someone with Griffin, and he was like, oh, I've never thought of that for his technology. So it's pretty cool. And then we have the software catalog as well. So I will stop. So this is the main landing page, the technology.nasa.gov. And you can click on this link here that says patent portfolio, or you also have the software catalog. And another cool one here at the landing site is the spin-offs. So the spin-offs is pretty cool, where you can go in there and you can see spin-offs of NASA technology. So it has a whole list of technologies that we developed. And then you can go in there and it shows you like a lot of the commercial applications that was developed from their technology. So that is a good way to be able to come up with ideas like, oh, that's pretty cool, and be able to go into the patent portfolio and put a different way of thinking about how that can potentially be used. So once you get to the patent portfolio, it's broken down into 15 different categories. And you can search by the category, or you can go to the search and search that way, or you can even filter down by a particular agency. So I will just filter by Kennedy because I'm biased, obviously. And this is some of the technologies, and I just click on the first one. So like I said, it gives you the overview, the technology, the benefits, and the application. You can download a PDF version of that to take it with you. Let me see if I can find another one.
I think Griffin's is right there to the right. Wait. Yeah, that's it.
Everyone right on this is great. So overview of that, the technology, the benefits, the application. And you have the patent on it as well, where you can go to the patent website, and it gives you all the claims on the patent. So that's just one way. And then you also have this button here to apply the license, which is once you start your company and you want to patent for evaluation license or startup license, which we'll talk about in the next slide. So you can do that as well. We'll also just go to the software catalog as well, which will show that it's constructed in a similar fashion. The only difference between the software catalog and the patent portfolio, the software is free for all to use. You just have to apply for it, but it has different purposes for it. Like this one says U.S. government purpose only, so you just have to be conscious of what you want to use the software for. So next, we talk about how to license, and I briefly went over it some. You find what you like, apply, you set the terms with our office, sign. I made it sound so much easier.
It's literally almost that easy.
But it's almost like
literally almost. Does that make sense?
So I briefly talked about the type of licenses. So we have 3 different types. The first one being an evaluation license, and basically that's a way for you to test drive the technology that you're looking at. So you'll be able to get that license, test it out for a year, potentially up to 18 months. For universities, the cost of that is usually free. You have to work with your university to get those licenses. But you will be able to just test drive with no sales. The next one is the commercial license. We have 3 different types: exclusive, non-exclusive, and partially exclusive. And so, the more exclusivity you have or you apply for, the more the price goes up for that. And then as far as royalty rates and things of that nature, it's all negotiable with the office. But the last one that I like to talk about is the startup license. So the startup license is a form of commercial license where startup companies like the ones you heard today, they can apply for a license, and that license, we will waive the licensing fees for the first 3 years for that startup company. And it has a standard royalty rate of 4.25%. And also those licenses are non-exclusive, but it's a way to, 3 years give you an opportunity to build capital for your company before you have to pay for those licensing fees. So EcoSphere is an example of a T2U program that started their own company. And so right now they licensed the Spears technology, where they was able to clean up environmental, waste sediments, so it eliminates toxins like the PCBs and dioxins in the sediment. And so since they've started, they have continued to raise funding, but they have tested their solution like in the San Diego Bay. They've even been overseas to a couple places, testing, they're still growing. So this is an example of starting their students here where you can go. And that's pretty much most of it. We have, like I said, the patent portfolio is all 10 NASA centers. Students are welcome to work with any technology that you like. We offer presentations like this pretty much every semester. So if you're not in his class and you want to join his class, you'll probably be giving the same presentation again. So, but yeah, with that, with the contact information, Trent Smith is here. He's the program lead, project manager, and Meredith, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. She's the T2X lead. And so that's pretty much a wrap on the presentation. Keep it short and sweet so that y'all can ask any questions that you may have.
I would also like to invite to the panel a scientist, a chemist. He has 18 Space Act Awards, 18 peer-reviewed scientific publications, 10 patents, and in his 15 years career now at NASA.
Almost 20, actually.
Almost 20. Please welcome Mr. Trent Smith. He's the I would also like to invite Ms. Michaela to the panel. Because of her, I'm able to work with these students on the technology transfer. I've been here at the university for 9 months, and she reached out to me on my first week, and the rest is history. Thank you so much. Before we open it up to questions, I'd also like to introduce an entrepreneur, a CEO, an entrepreneurship expert from the University of Oxford. I kept calling it a different name today, and he kept correcting me. I only said Oxford University, I only said it's University of Oxford. He's an entrepreneur. He started several companies. We first met, I want to say 15 years ago in Cannes. But don't ask him what we did. But we did meet at the festival, and we've been friends since then. Please welcome Mr. Shukri Tofi. I'd like to say a few things before we open it to the audience for questions and answers.
Cool, so please excuse my background. Can I turn this?
Of course.
You guys are doing it right? So, can you hear me all right? Yeah. Is this better?
If you press the ball,
Is this better?
There you go.
Yeah. So I'll be very brief because I think we want to get into the kind of dialogue part, and I know that I chatted to some of you in the class today. But I think I bring an interesting perspective because I started my first business when I was 21 years old and I was a student at university. And the reason for starting my business was because I needed to pay back my student loans. And so for me, entrepreneurship is a form of activism, a really positive form of activism. And my story is that I was studying law, so you certainly don't have to start a business in the industry that you are or in the faculty that you're studying in necessarily. And a film and media student at the University of Cape Town in South Africa came and pitched to me and said, hey, I think you should be the CEO of this business. And I said, all right, let's do it. I need to pay back my student loans. And that became a very successful production company that kind of produces most of the ads and digital content that you see for the Middle East and Africa region. And it's called Fort, and it still exists today. I then used that as the springboard to start a number of other businesses in professional services and technology. And some of that technology, I have some experience of being able to sell that into multinationals like Deloitte and kind of working with, as I say, the strategy which is on the back of a gorilla, really, and trying to sort of make sure that you glean as much information from that. I then have some experience in property, just because media and professional services and technology is so volatile. You need something to kind of balance the balance sheets a little bit. And most recently, in the last couple of years, I've been spending more of my time in sort of conversations like this, at the University of Oxford predominantly, but also in Berlin and in South Africa and many other university and large organization settings to help entrepreneurs launch and scale their businesses, be a broker for investment and funding, investing in it myself at different times, sitting on the board. And so I am someone that brings a certain perspective. When I must commend and say that I sit on a number of panels around the world. Here we have like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, and in South Africa I'm a lion on Lion's Den.
Yeah.
And my goodness, these presentations were very, very strong and really well put together today. I get paid to speak, to teach people how to bring emotion to the first part, and
Connect.
I go over this bridge in Pittsburgh every Thanksgiving. It's like I was right there, So it was really, really strong, and I think that's really attributable to my friend Dr. Ramy Rahimi. You guys are really well drilled, really, really good start, middle, and end. I always tell people everything is the Lion King. There's a 3-act narrative to everything. Life is good. Mufasa dies. What's going to happen? Come back, Simba. Come back, save the day. And that's what we need to do within business pitches. So when I look at my one bit of feedback and knowing the road that each of you have to travel in the next while, it's about being able to manage the stakeholders. Because I think sometimes the one thing I would say is that entrepreneurs, and that's part of the gig, is we speak flippantly about we'll get this county on board, we'll get this municipality on board. Really? It might take you 4 months to get the meeting, right, for the first one, and then get on the procurement list and. So being able to kind of move from this point effectively, and I'm not putting you down. I think that I'm just saying it's going to be I think you're definitely going to do it. The point is just have a real healthy dose of reality and a sober view on what that's going to take in terms of managing stakeholders, clients, your primary clients. Some of you have 2 clients where you have a different product and revenue stream on the back end. Others of you are going to have to attract the right talent within your organization. You're going to have to manage stakeholders like some of the people sitting to my right over here, making sure that they're looked after. So a big part of it becomes managing those sort of stakeholders. But I think certainly for the people that presented today, you're off to probably one of the best starts that I've seen globally. And as I say, I'm someone who does this for a living, where I sit down and try and invest and help businesses scale. So well done, congratulations, and I look forward to further engagement with you in this Q&A and afterwards.
Michaela, would you like to say a few things?
Surprise.
Yeah, sure. So Dr. Rahimi gave me a nice introduction to start.
It was for me,
Okay.
because you have to kind of start here.
Okay, got it, you're like
And for the chin.
Got it, okay. So yeah, Dr. Rahimi gave me a nice introduction, but I'll go into a little bit more detail about what my program does. So I actually used to work at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida with Trenton Delvin, and then about 2 years ago, I was asked to come part-time on board with a new program that they were kind of just trying to figure out what it looked like, and we were thinking about names, and I think Dan was like, how about T2X? That sounds cool. And then for a long time, we didn't know what the X stood for. It was excellence, it was a lot of things.
He still calls it 2 things.
He does,
Still
he does.
kind of decided.
So we landed on expansion, and most of the time it's expansion. So what are we expanding upon? So technology transfer, as you've just heard from these wonderful colleagues of mine, is about taking NASA-developed technology that was originally created for some extraterrestrial application and bringing it back down to Earth. And T2X is about taking that one step further and augmenting that mission to include a focus on early stage entrepreneurship, and specifically early stage entrepreneurs in the academic sphere. So that's the program that I support, and we work directly with most of the tech transfer offices at NASA, and hopefully soon all of them, to do this work. And T2U is a fundamental pillar of the work that we do. So that's why I was so gung-ho with reaching out to Dr. Rahimi in his first week before he'd set up his desk. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing. It's very much a sister program to tech transfer, and we work very much hand in hand. Thank you.
So hey, I'm Trent. I'm here. I get to work with Michaela, Delvin, and Megan today. This is great. We went for a tour. I got to talk to Daniel. We had a good time. But yeah, exactly. We're here to make sure that all the NASA investments where we develop technologies to solve these hard problems of putting humans, on the moon, on Mars, James Webb sensors, Earth science, aeronautics, all those things that we do, to make those technologies available back to industry, nonprofits, academia, because it's U.S. payer tax, it's taxpayer money. And so we want to make good investment, the investment into NASA available to all of them. So we're here to tell you about technology transfer, which is why Delvin literally told you that. So those technologies are available for you to go license if you form a company. And it can provide you an advantage, it can provide you business development opportunity. You just heard 4 potential companies now, right? I heard there are companies, at least 3 of them, I think. So, I mean, that's really powerful, and that really, to me, speaks to the power of T2X. And it's a great pleasure to be here with you today, like in real life.
I'd like to take this moment to thank you all very much. Working with the different technologies where, they are from the Kennedy Space Center, but we're not limited to just the technologies developed at the Kennedy Space Center, but we're using technologies from NASA and all the technologies that they have. But we only work mainly with their office. They are our number 1 go-to. So they answer all our questions, whether it's their technology from their center or not. So I want to take a moment and say thank you very much for doing that for us. It's open for you guys. This is for students. We're here for you guys. If you have any questions, our panel is here to answer any questions I have.
We must have answered every question they got. Oh, Griffin's got a question.
So this is Tech Portal, so I'm on the inside, but I used it last week to look at what other wastewater technologies NASA you can go and work on. I thought there'd be at most 6, there's 10. It took me 10 minutes to identify 10 other technologies. A lot of blend, which I didn't even know, so I use it myself.
Yeah.
It's a great world.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other government agency that has all their technologies in one spot. So, I think it's a credit to NASA that we've been able to manage our technologies in such a way that they're more accessible to the public and industry.
If we were interested in any of the licenses for the NASA technologies, what would be the best way to reach out about that?
Call Delvin. No, seriously. You go to the portal, you'll read the technology opportunity sheet, we call it TOPS. And if it's a patent has been issued, you can click on that, that'll give you information. And, it will tell you what center, it's from. There's actually a liaison you can email, there's a questions button you can click. And we'll get back, you'll get a real person. I mean, we're here. Like, I show up at my desk at home, it's COVID, but I'm still there. My phone works, my email works, and we'll get your questions answered. If you are curious, I mean, we have ideas on what we think the technologies could be used for, but we have a technology that was developed for the Hubble Space Telescope to map stars and galaxies in the universe. That algorithm is used to track whale sharks and polar bears. I can guarantee you the people at Goddard never ever thought an algorithm looking out to the universe would be used to track whale sharks and polar bears. Because it's creative people like you that say, what does this thing do? What can I use something that does this or something else? That's what NASA spin-offs are. And so if you have questions, we'll try to answer them because we want you to use the technology.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the spin-offs are in I think the website is spinoff.nasa.gov. And it was part of if you go to the technology.nasa.gov webpage,
Yeah.
but that technology he was talking about is in the spin-offs. And as far as reaching out, like you said, there's the liaison that you reach out, but since Embry-Riddle is kind of connected with KPK.
Hey, you're in Florida. You know the Florida guys.
Yeah, reach out to us because sometimes we can give you a quick response than, you know, actually going through there.
At a minimum, we'll get you to the right people.
Yeah, we get you the right people.
I think a perfect example today with Medusa filtration, he contacted you guys, you connected him with the inventor is here today.
Yeah.
I was invited.
Question?
I'm going to stand up because I'm a little short and he's a little tall.
Please, I got to stand up when I talk.
So I was going to ask about, so I'm in Professor Rahymi's Entrepreneurship 1 class, and so we were kind of looking at the technologies, and we found one that it's the SANS EC sensors. And so originally their application was used for medication bottles to sense the quantities and if they had been spoiled or not. And so we took that sensor, and since it has damage protection or damage sensing, we were gonna, and also temperature sensing, we were gonna apply it to restaurant containers.
Okay.
But we decided not to do that. We actually went with the damage sensing portion of it, and we want to see if we can apply it to Formula One race cars. And so I was wondering if you had any advice or if you knew much about the SANS AC sensor.
You know what? After we do this,
Yeah, absolutely.
let's look it up.
All right.
Because I gotta look at the patent.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, please. Yeah, plug us after.
Well, I have a question. You wear a very interesting purple shirt. It says veggie on it. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so in a former life, before I joined the Technology Transfer Office, I was the project manager for Veggie. And Veggie is the facilities on the space station that the astronauts use to grow and eat their food. And so we've run a number of spaceflight biology experiments in Veggie. We've grown a number of crops in Veggie, even grown algae. So we've had a couple of algae experiments in Veggie. And just a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to join the technology transfer program. And during COVID, so I interviewed and got the job. And when I interviewed, it was on Teams. I had my suit, my tie, and I was barefoot and I had swim trunks.
That was 6 months after.
Yeah, and then Delvin joined Tech Transfer 6 months after me.
Same.
Did you have the same interview uniform?
I had on shoes. But I
Okay.
had on shoes.
But yeah, I tell you, spacecraft production is really exciting, and it's fun. It's also very demanding. You're on call 24 hours a day when you have missions going. When the crew are waiting, you have to be responsive. And so joining technology transfer in some ways takes some of the excitement away, but it allows me to focus a little more on my family. And for me, it was a win. And I came in as a chemist. I got some patents, so I was always on the other side of technology transfer, like Griffin is. And for me, it was just a blast to join the team and see how everything actually gets done. So if you get a technical degree, you can do a lot of weird stuff. And and joining tech transfer, I get to work with the technology folks like Griffin. I get to work with the business people, entrepreneurs, experts all around the world, and I get to learn from them. So for me, learning is always key.
I always like to set you up too.
I'm
Tell them about peppers.
Well, we'll talk peppers.
I'm gonna invite Griffin to come on stage and say.
Oh my gosh, well,
Please do.
So, everyone, can you hear me, I guess? So, you start off with a problem. NASA can't do something, and you're like, how do we fix it? And eventually, you're in the lab for years, maybe a decade, and you get something that might work, and then your customer is one box 100 miles in the air that's moving at 18,000 miles per hour.
A little slow, but yeah, close.
So after you meet that need, or they choose another option, where do you go? So tech transfer allows our ideas that might sit on a shelf to go into real life and help real people more than 6 astronauts.
Yeah.
So it's done.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, think about this. Griffin's motivated not to get the technology out. The technology can make life better for us on Earth. That's what motivates Griffin to be here.
I want to see it work really large.
Yeah, I know. And I know you're motivated. I know what you've been doing. I appreciate you.
I guess I've got a question more so on your side. How did you get into this whole program? How'd you get to NASA and into this program in particular?
So I graduated during a recession, so I applied to 550 jobs, and then no one wanted me. And then I was an internship at NASA previously, and I asked if I could come back, and then I did. And then internship ended. I said, "Do I have to leave?" And they said no. And then I've been there for like 14 years. 2008. Yeah.
All right.
So I am not a basic student. I have not heard the whole spiel about the technology transfer. First time I've ever heard about it. Very, very cool. I really like how this money that is getting transferred or through tax dollars is getting back to the public. However, it kind of worries me that I haven't heard about it. I know it's a pretty new program, but is it a one university thing? Are you working with 50? Are you working with many of other things? I just have never heard about this, and it's really cool. I'm just going to go on the website and look up patents because it seems like fun.
Well,
That's why we're here today.
So weird
This is
type of
exactly
fun.
what we are.
yeah, well, technology transfer has been a part of NASA's
Since the space activity.
since space's inception. So we've always been around for many years. But obviously, I am new, but it's always been there.
But we can't buy advertising on TV,
Yeah.
right? So we're limited what we can do.
Like so it is a college-oriented program to get people to start.
So,
No.
technology the T2U program is college oriented, and it's been around for a couple of years.
Yeah, so T2U actually started somewhat organically, and the centers will all give you different answers about whose idea it was.
It was ours.
It was ours. I can't say that. Headquarters.
But I can say it. It was
Yes,
Kennedy.
Trent can say it. One of the earliest programs was actually out of Rollins College, and I believe that started in 2013. So relatively new in terms of like the tech transfer has been around since 1950.
Yeah, from basically when Congress formed us and the
Yes.
president signed us in,
You have to do this.
we've been in the information sharing kind of realm, including technology.
Yeah. And so the relationship with universities had happened somewhat organically, and then especially once we created the T2X program 2 years ago, we said all of these centers are doing this somewhat independent of one another, and how can we take this and collate it and get all the centers working on the same page and doing something that is slightly more robust and slightly more organized. So now we have a network of, I think it's close to 35 universities, not working together, but working independently of one another within this network of T2U schools. So we have a website, it's the same website, but /T2U. If you Google NASA Tech Transfer University, it also comes up.
That's the easiest way.
Yeah, that's the easiest way. So yes, we have a website and it lists all of the participating organizations. And
I think we have about 10.
yes, Kennedy has at least 10 universities. And one more thing I'll say about that is part of the reason you haven't heard of T2U is that it is instructor-led. So it's not that we have this big, impressive curricula that we deliver and say, Dr. Rahimi, this is how you have to do this. I call him and say, hey, we have this thing. Do you want to try it? And he's like, what is it? I'm like, well, it's kind of
What do you
like
want to
you
make it?
Yes, it is exactly what you make it. So every school is doing it their own way with the resources and the staff that they have available and making it their own thing.
But to the point of NASA spinoffs, I mean, spinoffs have been around since the 60s
Yeah.
that I can think of.
You can actually look up and see PDFs of spin-offs going back to the 60s
Yeah,
on
back
our
to the
website.
60s. And it's hilarious, actually. So if you get a chance, if you get tired of looking at the patents, go to spinoffs and look at the old ones.
That's even better.
Yeah, it's fun. And every one of you, I'm going to just tell you, every one of you has NASA technology in your pocket or on the table in front of you. That camera in your phone uses a CMOS sensor. That CMOS sensor was developed at JPL and was spun out to a company, and I think the patent expired, so we're not getting royalties on it anymore. But every one of you has used NASA technology, and you do every day. So.
I guess to add to that, at one time, the majority of integrated.
Oh, you dropped your NASA
NASA
technology.
technology.
So, yeah, at one time, the majority of integrated circuits consumed in the world were going towards the Apollo program. So NASA was a big pull towards that. And all integrated circuit advances were to feed Apollo to get from, millimeter scale integrated circuits to, micron to now nanometers. So it's to support human habitation beyond low Earth orbit, and now we can play games on our phone.
And to add to
Applaud games on phones. That's important.
and I was going to add to Michaela, she was saying TTU is structure led, and this one of the things we do. We just provide the technologies, and we empower the professor and the university to make it their own, because we understand that each university has their own needs and the way of structuring things. So we empower them to make it your own, and what's best works for you.
So what I'd say just on that is that I think thinking of building complementary teams is really, really important, right? So if you don't come from the business faculty and you're sort of studying to be an engineer, I think make an effort to kind of, I think so many technologies in the world actually, not only, and this is probably, as you say, the most comprehensive, easy to kind of consume list and catalog of technologies, but I think it's great things happen when you have technically minded people working with people that can really tell that story and do the things that you don't really want to do. So I think that if you're only speaking to people that kind of do and like what you like, great, but make an effort, because it really is right on the edge of your comfort zone, and like being able to kind of have those complementary teams. And so I've seen that in the businesses that I've started and the business that we've kind of scaled and stuff globally, is that you need that. Otherwise, great ideas are sitting on people's like desktops and like, you know, in PDF documents the world over. And so I think that's just something not only as it pertains to NASA technologies, but generally speaking, you gotta be able to tell that story like quite effectively.
I usually say in my class, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I try to put them in uncomfortable situations where some actually call my class Ramy Tank, right? Instead of Shark Tank, because we want results and we want to work. It's really fun to work with everybody and put the teams together. But I have a follow-up question for you. What would you say the most challenging part from an entrepreneurship perspective for aspiring entrepreneurs?
I mean, I was in a class earlier this morning, and I think they asked me 6 questions, and all 6 of them were like, how do I get the money to start a business, right? And what I tried to hone in on actually was there are certain things you can control before you get to the money, right? So how are you spending your day? What are you doing? How are you kind of organizing your teams? Are you watching 3 hours of Netflix every night? Like, what are you doing? Because chances are, as you grow up and as you go out into the world, you'll actually have less time. And so my answer to the question of how to fund something is always, well, could you bootstrap it? Could you go to family and friends? Could you go to Dr. Rahimi and ask him who he knows? And then you'd phone me. But really it's about there's so many things you can do to get started, and one shouldn't stop because you don't have the money. And I think and the only reason I'm bringing that up is because, as I said, 5 out of 6 questions were like, hey, how did you have the money to start your own business? And so, then we can speak about, all right, well, when you do speak to someone about money, what does that look like? What are the trade-offs when you bring someone on board? What's your exit horizon? All of those types of things. And you'd be surprised how early on in the process you need to be clear on that in terms of where you're going. And I speak about clarity of mission, which is just generally, not only in this context, and to make sure that you kind of get everybody on the spaceship to where you want to be going. And that's important because that's just, and money is just part of that step, really, where you're going. So I think in the beginning, people are going to go confidence, track record, money, all of those types of things. Again, I said this as well. I said, when I was 21 years old and I didn't even have a car and I was wearing my dad's shirt going to the pitch, like, what did I say? I can't even remember what I said, right? Like, please use our company because we have no experience. Like, you feel sorry for me. Like,
pity money.
you know what I mean? And so, and what I can tell you is that it's about having people get excited. People buy people. So, and I can't out-geek you today and out-kind of tech-speak you, but what I can say is that people buy people. So you can have all your numbers are in place, you can have your spreadsheets, and what I always say to people, kind of provoke them and to be a bit provocative is I say, the numbers are great as long as you don't believe them. They're like, sorry, what? And I was like, yeah, because great things don't happen on the strength of your numbers, or whether you've got like kind of all your formulas and algorithms kind of in place. Great things happen when you connect to people. And so again, I'm having to kind of play that role certainly on this panel today to kind of, in a different context. If I was in a different context, I'd be helping people with the actual numbers and saying, please don't drink your own Kool-Aid, let me help you with getting these numbers in order. But I think in this context, with the number of smart people in a kind of square, I don't know, 30-yard space, I think it's about being able to tell that story quite effectively.
So I got a follow on funding. So if I recall, Trent, 3% of all government R&D money has to go to the SBIR program. Is that correct? Somewhere around there? There's a set aside. Okay, there's a law about this, but so the SBIR, STTR program, Small Business Innovative Research, they have every R&D agency has to post topics either every year or DoD is every 3 months. And if you have a technology idea or know the technology can solve one of these problems and you work with licensing, you can apply for about 150 grand for a phase 1, 400 grand for a phase 2, and 25% of winners are sole proprietorships. Not like any company like the ones that talked earlier today, they're just at that level. They can win those topics and get money. And some of those successful companies, when they get to stage 3, they're like full businesses at that point.
I mean, SBIR is the flip side of tech transfer, right? So tech transfer is, we have technologies for you, and you'll give us money to use the technology, right? That's what a license is. SBIR is the other side, where we have problems. We need your help, we need your technology, and we're going to give you money to do that. So that's what SBIR and STTR is. You can look at NASA SBIR topics, and if you have a company that can solve those topics, you can write a proposal. There's actually in Florida a lot of places like the economic regional systems sometimes will even have writers help you write a proposal. So that's the flip side. You can pay NASA money, not a lot of money. We're not looking to get rich. We're just looking to be fair to get NASA technologies, or you can provide technologies to NASA for SBIR calls.
Do we have any questions?
How often are new technologies created in NASA, and are any of like the newer technologies that are created, if any have been created, are they added to the TTU program?
Yeah, I can answer that. Every day we have new technology reports that are coming in, right? These are scientists and engineers across the agency are creating new stuff, right? It can be software code, it can be algorithms, it can be a composite, it can be something that at Langley they just built. This is the world supply of this material, right? I used to be that guy. And they'll write a new technology report. It'll come to our office, like, hey, that looks cool, and we'll assess the market. We'll say, hey, is this thing got any legs? Can anyone use it to make money here on Earth? And if so, we'll say, all right, patent lawyers, go to work. And as soon as the patent lawyers get the patent application in, we can go start marketing that technology. But it happens every day. New stuff's coming in, new patents are being issued, and we're adding stuff to the pool.
Follow-up question was, to piggyback off of his question, outside of universities, where is the TTS program for like administered? Because I can only imagine with what an entrepreneur from Oxford had to say is, as long as you believe in your goal or something that you believe in, you'll be able to push it out. But I know as college students, a lot of us come here like not having a single idea what we want to do. So I can only imagine with someone with a little bit more experience and a little bit more, like, especially in a specialty field, who knows, who's familiar with problems in a specific industry, has access to these technologies and how they can solve them. Like, I just want to know where else this.
So we have, Delvin had the map with the 10 centers, right? Those are 10 centers. And, you know, we can't buy advertising on TV, right? There's appropriations laws. We go to conferences, like, you were at a conference today?
Florida Water Resources Conference.
Right,
It
so
was at the Ocean Center.
So we go to conferences where technical people are at that can understand some of the technologies, but like, I didn't know you guys had that. We might be able to use that in our company. We talk to business development folks. We'll make phone calls. We do webinars. We try to use every available avenue we have. We're here. Tell them to come to you, right? Huh?
We have a YouTube channel.
We have, tech transfer on YouTube. We don't have a TikTok yet, but I'm talking to them.
Keep an eye out for it.
There's government regulations around TikTok.
Yeah, fair enough.
But at any rate, we just are trying to let folks know that these technologies are available, and these are not products ready to go. I mean, if you're going to license the technology, you're going to have to hire engineers. I mean, you talk about the team. You're absolutely right. Investors are hiring. They're investing in the team more so than the business because the team's going to make it happen. And so you're going to have to hire a team. You're going to have your technical person. You're going to have an HR person at some point.
Avoid it as long as possible.
Huh?
Avoid it as long as possible.
I don't know, man. They could be value added. But you're going to have to take this thing and make it work in your market. You're going to have to take this thing. You might have to actually invent stuff to make it work. And so when you license a technology from NASA, Delvin mentioned the exclusivity. You pay more for exclusivity. And we're in the business of getting the NASA technologies broadly out. We don't give exclusive licenses very easily. It's pretty rare, actually. So, but it doesn't really matter. If you're building intellectual property around that, well, no one else can use that if you patent it.
Right.
And so, but my point is it takes R&D, testing, and time, and technical know-how, and tenacity to make it work.
And what I'd say as well, I think for those of you who are shutting down because you're kind of like, I'm not an entrepreneur. Like, I'm not gonna start my own business, right? What I'd say, I always say this, is I really don't think that everybody should start a business and be an entrepreneur. Like in fact, most people shouldn't. But you can contribute to an entrepreneurial ecosystem. You could be a number 2 or 3 in a business. So if you look around and you kind of know people and you look through your contact list, in the same way you can kind of ask someone out on a date, go and speak to them about where they're going and what they're interested in, and saying like, well, actually, have the humility to kind of go out there and speak to people and realize that entrepreneurship is not doing this deadlift and just kind of lifting the whole thing up and saying, I own the whole business all on my own. You can have complementary teams. You could also take it half the way, right? And then do some of this R&D, entrepreneurship stuff for like large organizations. So large organizations are teaching elephants how to dance, right? So like, how do they actually innovate? How do they launch new products and services? How do they change their revenue model? And they're constantly trying to iterate as well. So they have their own ecosystem of reaching out to people. So you need not be the person that does this heroic entrepreneurship, like lift up and you do everything on your own, because I think that's tough, and I think that very few people kind of get through that. So there's a role that you can play in understanding this ecosystem and what opportunities exist here, and then being able to plug that into a real world, right? So you have to think about it beyond being a college university student. In fact, I think this is a time to learn, to be there, to have a sense of it, but when you're in your place of work or you're starting something else, just to have that in the periphery at all times, is that you should be able to kind of pull things from different areas to build it together.
Last question. So combining what you just said with the information that you've given me, how can we help to want to go out and try to meet those people, and even if it's not making a big dream or creating something entirely new, or it's more entrepreneur than entrepreneurial, also help get the word out of the T2X program so that we can absolutely get the ideas and technologies out to the most people to have the best chance of impact, and so the technologies can serve all the purposes in every field possible. So I was just wondering how you guys could.
I got to think as a student, you can volunteer for the events that get put on. You can internship at some of these, government-led incubators or other incubators. Some of them may even pay you if they have money. I don't know. But certainly you have resources here, right? How can I plug into this? That's what I would ask this man, right?
Yeah, we have Trap Expo, and we have workshops that leads to the Trap Expo, and that happens in the full semester. We have Lunch and Venture, and we have workshops that leads to that. We also go and compete in different competitions out there, and we have some workshops that leads to that. So there's definitely not a shortage of, we just finished a boot camp for companies that are trying to take it to the next level. And we're starting an accelerated program for 10 weeks starting in June, which will be here at the Microplex with Dr. Stephanie Miller and the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So definitely there's a lot of programs. Just get involved and we'll guide you, we'll work with you and help you with that.
You gotta remember, CE is a trip expert, correct?
Yeah, I gotta say, if you're passionate about something and you want to volunteer, go volunteer. You're gonna find opportunities when you volunteer, especially for stuff that you really believe in, that you never would have found otherwise. I can't tell you, I've done so many cool things, had so many cool jobs, only because I volunteered to do weird stuff. And you know, if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see all the weird jobs I've had. I'm a chemist, and I've had jobs that a chemist should not have.
I think we're almost ready for the happy hour technology. So we'll take maybe one more question.
How can I just say one more thing? Just to kind of, so I want to argue just to kind of flip-flop quickly and argue for the other side of the coin, because you think, what can you do? What I find the world over, right, is that, and I can tell you that when I was like 23 years old and 24 years old and I had my own small business at the time, and my friends were all going into like consulting firms and law firms and getting cool jobs and stuff, and it was like embarrassing to have your own business. Like entrepreneurship is a tough road. It was kind of like, what's the name of your company? You're like, oh, you've never heard of it. Like, you're kind of like embarrassed to speak about it at a barbecue. So what I'd say that just to kind of like take out of this like discussion today is to like stop asking someone like, hey, so what jobs have you applied to? Like, where do you work? Have you noticed that people say that? They kind of, I know that because I'm an entrepreneur through and through. They go like, so where do you work? I was like, I work at my own business, and you've never heard of it. And you kind of feel a bit embarrassed around that. So it's about being able to kind of change the conversations you're having in your WhatsApp groups, like online, when you're like wherever you are. Have conversations about saying, well, hey man, what's your hustle? What are you doing? I know you're kind of like doing the college thing, you're making sure you're applying for good jobs so your parents are happy. But have that. Like, I think we live in a world, if COVID has taught us anything, like we've had this great resignation, people can work anywhere. And my big punt for Dr. Rahimi and entrepreneurship globally is that the ultimate value that it distills down to is freedom for you, right? So all of these things are just like a means to an end to have a great social impact, but ultimately, you want to use your social capital, your technical skills, all the opportunities that you have to deliver the freedom for you to do what you want to do in your life. And so that's what entrepreneurship offers, and that's why you should take it seriously in terms of thinking about and having that entrepreneurial way of thinking. That's the flip side of the entrepreneurial conundrum.
Thank you for that. We have one last question, and then this conversation is not going to stop. We'll continue, but we'll continue through the happy hour.
So, for your most successful startup cases, do startups come to you with a problem in search of a technology solution, or do they often start with technologies and see what they can apply the technologies to?
So I would offer that we've had large companies, small companies, and startups, and even before they were startups, identify nascent technologies that were either something that they found would be helpful with something that they were already doing. They have product lines and they wanted to have a new product line that did similar items, or it's a new way to do something. So it runs the gamut, and I can't say what's more successful than the other. I can't even talk about different startups as it's typically confidential information, but I can basically talk about the NASA technology can provide opportunities for large businesses and small businesses.
I got a story to add, and I won't use identifying.
Good.
So one of my
Don't get me in trouble.
I'm a government
recorded.
Yeah, I'm a government contractor. One of my government contractor friends, you're gonna know who it is, but yeah, I was working with him in a space life science lab, and then he got his MBA at Ramy, and he quit one day, and then he had to start up. And licensed. I think he was there long enough to know what technologies NASA had. He saw opportunity and he took it. And now he pays taxes. So that's pretty good. Yeah, he employs 20 people last time I checked. So. Yeah. But yeah, so he was just a regular engineer and he saw opportunity and he took it. And I think he's glad he did.
And he's cleaning up water.
Oh, where you were getting that.
He's cleaning up stuff around the world.
Yeah.
One last thing I would add to that is just that, again, like Trent said, we can't really speak to specific startup successes necessarily, but all successful startups, in my opinion, are trying to solve a problem that they care about. Generally, you want to seek to follow passion and not to start a business because you think it's cool to be an entrepreneur. It is cool. That's objective. But if you want to do something that people care about, you have to care about it too. So you have to be out to solve a problem, and the NASA technology should be a solution on the way to solving that problem.
Awesome. Trent, one last advice for our students.
Check out that technology portal, y'all. Look at those patents.
Yeah, I would just say this was great. It was good to meet you all, and I'm looking forward to talking to you after the fact. But Embry-Riddle has a really good program here, and I'm excited to see what comes. A lot of the technologies come out.
So I'm coming from like the tech side. So as an engineer, be good at stuff. Like technology is easier when you're good at stuff. If you don't understand basic engineering concepts, you're gonna have a bad time. So
Or you hire someone that does.
I mean, I would love that, but like math is good. Math really helps. Math is good. Yes.
Yeah, wrap on that.
I'd say stay connected to people. I mean, you meet people once and then they call you 10 years later and they're suddenly a professor at a... so I really mean that. You don't know who you're in contact with on any given day. Today it may be trying to stop like sporting injuries, but you may be on a completely different mission in 10 years time, and there could be someone in this room today that could assist you on that. So start where you are, and you're constantly moving. So be nice to people, because the freshmen in this room, maybe the people that are kind of we want to be speaking to in like 5 years time. So yeah,
They may be in charge of them all.
absolutely.
And Michaela, the last but not least, she's the reason we are all here, because she connected me with the program. So I'll give you the last one.
Okay.
Pressure.
I guess I'll build on what everybody else said, which is be good at stuff, stay in contact with people that you meet, do that stuff you're good at, follow your passions, and really going back to what you said, we host this internal training camp to teach our employees basically, or employees is a weird word for what you all do, but to teach NASA civil servants how to think like entrepreneurs, and it's something we do internally. And one of our instructors always says, you don't know who I know. So, you've now met me, and now you're connected to my whole contact list. So keep me in mind when you're saying, I really need to hire, I don't know, somebody who's good at math. Can you connect me to that? So
I know Griffin.
Exactly. So yeah, stay in touch with each other.
Very well. Well.